Hello again to our Mend community. This is Evan again with another episode of Mastering Pain. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of sensitization, and it's actually going to be a two-part episode because there's so much to learn about it. This is some of the really cool stuff. So if you've liked what we talked about so far and are fascinated by it, you're going to be even more fascinated by sensitization. This is really where the rubber hits the road in terms of how we experience pain and also getting into how we actually treat people with sensitization and chronic pain. Once again, it's going to be good to go check out the first two episodes. I can link them right in the video right here. But that'll be a really good foundation for what we're talking about today. So far we have a really solid understanding of the foundations of the mechanisms of what causes pain and how we experience it. We've talked extensively about how pain is informed by damage at tissues, but also by other factors such as your mental health, your mood, your history of injuring that particular part of your body, your social norms, and many other things. And today we're gonna go a step further and talk about sensitization. Sensitization is really interesting because it talks a lot about the things we've already talked about, the psychosocial factors, your own personal factors, but we're also gonna dive into the chemistry of what's going on inside your brain and spinal cord that actually cause you to be more sensitive. A lot of people say, I've been working as hard as I can on my mental health and understanding what's going on with my situation when I experience pain and still nothing's helping. That's because there are other factors at play. And so we're going to talk about that in part 2 of this episode on sensitization. Okay, so we're all sensitive to something. Some of us are sensitive to a lot of things. For myself, I am sensitive to people chewing with their mouth open. I'm sensitive to really hot liquids when I'm drinking them. I'm deathly afraid of spiders, so I'm sensitive to anything that feels like a spider on my body. And another thing I'm sensitive to is any type of injury to my hands. And this is because I rely on my hands for both my fun and my livelihood. So it's a very important thing to me. So I actually want you to pause the video right now, and I want you to think about the things that you're sensitive to in your life. It's totally unique to you. It's based on your personal experiences. But pause it and take a minute to think about the things you're sensitive to. Now I want you to think of a horrible, horrible world where you are stuck being bombarded by those particular sensations that you are sensitive to. What would happen? Well, for some of those sensations, you'd actually get used to it, as you can imagine. The sensation would be a little more dull over time, and you'd be able to take the sensation without having the full reaction. But for other things, you could imagine the sensation would actually get worse. A quick example would be if I was punching you in the arm over and over, and then you developed a bruise, and that bruise got bigger and bigger, you wouldn't get used to the pain. It would keep getting more and more sensitive over time. So think about the factors that would affect your sensation, the ones that you're particularly sensitive to, and how those would change if you're exposed to them repeatedly over time. So if I wanted to overcome my fear of spiders, what I would do is I would get a trained mental health care professional to guide me through an exposure to more and more exposure of spiders. And of course, this would be a really difficult process, so I'd rely on my friends and family, my social network. Maybe I'd take a few mental health days off of work so I could cope better. It would be a very taxing experience, but ultimately, I'd probably be able to get over that fear. Now let's think about it on the other side of the coin. What if I injured my hands and I couldn't take any time off of work because I had to work to get paid to support my family, and I didn't have a good social network to help me through that injury? I would have to go into work every day, continue to hurt my hands, my anxiety level would go up, the amount of injury would keep going up, and ultimately this is how your body becomes sensitized to certain situations. So let's use an illustration to dive deeper into how our nervous system works. Remember, no making fun of my drawing or line drawing skills. So our body works like a natural alarm. It's trying to tell us when to pay attention to things. So here's our chart. On this axis, we have the amount of electrical activity going on inside your nervous system. Time's going along here. And so your typical nervous system is just hanging out down here. It's not totally at the bottom because you're alive, but it's hanging out down here and it's ready to tell you when there are things that you need to pay attention to. So let's say you close your fingers in the fridge door. Not the most painful thing, something your body wants you to pay attention to. So the electrical activity in your body goes up, but not enough to cross this threshold of pain. It's just another sensation that you have. So you take a look at your hand, say, okay, it's just in the fridge door, it's fine. And then slowly over time, that comes back down, life is good. Now imagine you close your fingers in the car door. Much different experience. That one is going to bump you up past the threshold of pain. The alarm is going to go off and you have to pay attention to that right now because you need to attend to your fingers that are really painful. But what happens after that? You shake out your hand, you ice it, you take a couple days off, and slowly over time your body says, it's okay, we don't need to keep sounding the alarm. The problem has been taken care of and the nervous system activity in your body goes back down to where it was before. But now what if you have sensitization to certain types of stimulation because of your life experiences? Instead of your nervous system hanging out down here initially, it's going to be starting up here because of all those factors that we've talked about. Now that same sensation of closing my hand in the fridge door is going to push me into the pain threshold. It's the same amount of stimulation going into my nervous system, but when it gets up to my brain, we're already in the pain area. And now, what if I don't have good health literacy? What if I don't know to ice? What if I'm not able to take time off of work? The amount of time it takes for my nervous system to calm back down is going to be a lot longer instead of just coming straight back down. Now it's taking me more time to get below the level of pain here, which is going to further increase my anxiety and increase my sensitization so that I might not come back down to the same level I did before. And you can see where this is going. It takes less and less stimulation to get you past that pain threshold. And think about it. This applies to all kinds of sensations, not just pain. This is why horror movies slowly build you up. If the bad guy just jumped out of nowhere, you wouldn't be as scared. But what horror movies do is they take you from here to here, and it's building up and it's getting scarier and scarier until finally the guy jumps out and scares you. You're already in this heightened state, and then you're jumping out of your chair. So this concept is super important for understanding why certain people are sensitive to some things over others, and why we can have a really strong pain response to such a small stimulus. You can imagine a situation where there are enough factors that would cause your nervous system to exist up here, where you're constantly experiencing pain even without tissue damage, even without any kind of input coming into your nervous system. And that is affected by more than just our psychology. It's affected by our chemistry, which is what we're going to talk about the next time. So your homework for this week, I thought you'd never ask, is to think about the things that you're most sensitive to and picture your chart. For that particular response, where is your nervous system sitting? Is your anxiety building up just in anticipation of it? And how much stimulation does it take to get you past that pain or that fear threshold that causes your nervous system to ring the bell and react? Thanks for listening, and keep an eye out for part 2 of Sensitization. Thanks again.